When I was a kid, there weren't videos that you could just easily watch to figure out how to do this stuff. So I was probably a long time picking away at everything, but everything is so much easier to access now.
Yeah, you can stream YouTube.
It's not fair, really. I was born just outside of Yarmouth, about 20 minutes outside of Yarmouth, in a community called Lake George. I've been drawing since I can remember, since I could hold a pencil. My mom has pictures of me with a pack of like 64 crayons when I was 2 years old, and I always would make sure I put the crayon back in the exact same hole. I could only take one out at a time. I was always very particular with my art supplies. When I grew up, I always remembered my mom doing toll painting, like acrylic painting on wood pieces. My dad would do the woodworking, scroll saw and stuff like that, and then my mom would paint the pieces, and I would go with them to craft fairs and stuff to sell their stuff. So I was always around that kind of thing. My mom was always very crafty. I think I got a lot of that from her. I remember from a young age that my teachers would save my artworks. They must have stood out a little bit amongst the pile that they would get. I've even come across them as an adult, and some of the teachers will say that they still have some of my stuff saved. When I was a kid, I remember there was a contest to, you had to name, if Yarmouth had a sea monster, what would it be named? And I not only named it, but I drew my own version of it. I won the contest, and they created the float as per my drawing. I was always encouraged to do my drawings. People were always asking me for things, even as a kid. I began selling my commissioned portraits, putting my ads in the paper for that. I remember when I was probably about 12 years old, people would call the number to get a piece ordered, and I would answer the phone, and they would be surprised because I just sounded like a kid. So as an artist, I've always kind of just done my own thing, kept to myself. I've had a lot of encouragement from, like I said, teachers over the years, art teachers and stuff, but I've kind of just stuck to myself and learned as I went. I remember when I was quite young, coming across and meeting Alex Jigaroff. That's always in the back of my mind. I remember seeing him, it might have been when he was painting the mural downtown in Alma Square, and I just remember thinking that was really cool and looking up to him. He was one that stood out in my mind, and as a young adult, I ran into Frank Boudreau. I remember seeing his stuff, and he's always one that I really look up to. So I'm a graphic designer by trade. I went to school for graphic design 2005 to 2007 in the Valley, NSCC, Annapolis campus. I really enjoyed that. I went to university for kinesiology for about a year, and I did well in it, but I just realized that I wanted to do art. Growing up, everyone just kind of assumed that I was going to do something to do with art. But I was really good in school. I had like a 99% average in high school, so I just kind of thought, well, I can do whatever I want, so I'm gonna go try this other thing. But in the end, I came back to just wanting to do art. So I really do enjoy doing the graphic design stuff, and it comes into play a lot with basically everything I do. There's probably not a day that goes by that I don't use the programs that I learned in that course. And I do a lot of freelance graphic design work around town. Some examples of graphic design work that I've done around town, a big one that I always mention is Heritage Brewing. They're really good to work with. They let me have pretty much creative freedom with, I do all their can designs, I've done their logo, some of their advertising, and then word of mouth, I get a lot of business that way, so. I I started doing murals. The first one that I did was when I was probably in grade, I think 9. I did one at Maple Grove when I went there. From that came another one I did at the YMCA when I was younger, and I did one at the old high school. So it came about a long time ago, and it's just sort of resurfaced recently in the past like 3 years. The first one that I've done more recently was on Julie Mood Interiors building. She contacted me and all she said was something floral. She didn't even know what my design was. She just kind of trusted me. I showed her on the very last day of painting my design compared to what was actually on the wall because she had no idea. She just trusted me. And it was kind of funny, that one, as I was painting that, she was kind of updating her building, and she came out with a can of paint and started painting her front door. And it was actually the exact same color that I had planned for the central flower in the middle of my design. So I've been told that I'm a bit of a mind reader when it comes to designing things. The Mother Nature sort of ocean-themed piece is on Ryan's Electrical warehouse on Water Street. They gave me creative freedom on that one. I had something in mind that I had been kind of waiting to do somewhere, so I showed them and they were game, and it was right at the end of September in 2021. I took a year off during COVID. I don't know, I could still work outside, but nobody was really thinking of spending money on things, so there was a year where nothing really went on. So the first one that I did this season was right in the same parking lot as the ferry terminal. It was kind of up to me. I just kind of drove around and looked at what walls were standing out to me as could be a big impact, and there's this big empty blue wall, and it's the first thing you see when you come out of the ferry terminal off the CAT coming from the States. And I just felt like it needed something exciting on it. Ended up it was owned by the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission, and they were really receptive, and they just said, okay, what do you think we could put on there? And I showed them and they were game, and I had to keep reminding myself how big the wall was because the walls just keep getting bigger, and I actually finished that one probably in about half the time that I expected because I got lucky with really good weather for that. It was super sunny, super hot. People kept driving by saying, oh my gosh, aren't you melting? But I love the heat, so yeah, I was in my glory. So yesterday I actually just finished up an even bigger piece on the Archway Insurance building on Main Street. And yeah, that building's about 40 feet long by 18 feet high. And it's all on slab siding. Like that really slowed me down on that one. But I don't know, as long as you can blow it up, there's not much you can't do. It just takes a little bit longer to work the design around the surface. So that one took me a while, but that one's in a different style than I normally work in. So that one's a monochromatic, all sepia tone to go with the theme, because it's a 1900s postcard recreation of the waterfront in Yarmouth. It definitely feels different doing these larger pieces, depending on the client. If they're giving you complete freedom or if they're being very specific on what they want, it definitely feels a little different. But usually I think most people can appreciate that in the end I'm the artist, and if you kind of let me do my thing, it's going to turn out better than if you kind of have stipulations the whole way through, and if you're there watching the whole time and trying to control everything. It definitely goes a lot better for me if I can just do my own thing. I love being outside. That's one of the things that is kind of a downfall of being an artist, doing my portraits and such. When I do that kind of work, I like a rainy day because I don't feel like I should be outside doing something in the sun. So it's kind of nice for me to be outside in the sun. People are walking by, there's a good vibe, like people stopping to chat about what I'm doing. That it's a whole different feel than when I'm just at home working. people get to see the progress and what I'm doing. I get to see the reaction of everyone. I'm looking forward to the mural season being done soon, just because it's physically demanding. They're big walls, it's a lot of paint, and so far I've been doing them by brush, so it's a lot of work and climbing up and down the staging and everything. So I'm looking forward to getting back into my smaller pieces again, but there's a season for it all.
Doing artwork in public place, are you crossing your fingers that before you're done someone doesn't come along and can't spray paint?
I think Yarmouth in general, I don't really worry too much about someone coming along and defacing some of my artwork. Most people are pretty appreciative of it, and it seems like most of that little like graffiti stuff that you see around here, it isn't really, I don't think it's really trying to damage somebody else's artwork. It's just trying to make a little statement somewhere. So far, like, fingers crossed, knock on wood, I don't really worry about that too much. Well, that's part of the reason why they're making me put a clear coat on them, so that if heaven forbid anything happened, we'd have a chance of scrubbing it off. I like doing people and pets as portraits. I like realistic style. It takes a lot of discipline and attention to detail to be able to give somebody something that looks exactly like their pet that they lost or their family member that they lost, and they'll enjoy that for the rest of their life and probably pass it on to someone else after. So I really enjoy that part of it. I really like that I get to do a lot of different things. I don't get burnt out on just doing one thing. I really enjoy doing my portrait stuff. I really enjoy doing the mural stuff. I'd like to maybe travel in the future and do some murals in different locations. I'd definitely be up for that. I just really enjoy trying to make each piece better than the last and working on my craft. For the most part, I find people are really welcoming to an artist in Yarmouth. People seem really excited to see new things and bright colors, and there's really a lot of beauty in our town, and I think people are really starting to appreciate that. If I met a young person that was interested in doing art and was nervous about showing their stuff, all I could really say was, you're only going to get better as long as you stick with it if it's something that you really want to do. It's also a learning process as you go. Just practice. The more you stick with it, the better you get. I just went through cleaning out my garage, and I found a bunch of pieces that I had saved over the years, and I'm looking at them thinking, someone paid me for this. So I've come a long way over the years, definitely, even months. I try to make every piece that I do, I try to make it better than the last one that I did.